The unexpected encounter commander Zephyr Talvek of the Valerian Empire stretched his forearms in satisfaction as his patrol fleet glided through the asteroid field near the Vega system. For 300 years, the Valerians had ruled this sector of space with their crystal-hulled warships in superior numbers. Their technology was ancient, reliable, and most importantly, feared by every species they had encountered. The Valerian ships moved in perfect formation, their translucent hulls catching starlight and reflecting it in brilliant rainbows across space. Each vessel was a work of art, grown rather than built, their living crystal structures capable of self-repair and adaptation. The neural networks connecting the fleet allowed for instantaneous communication and coordination that had never been matched by any other civilization. Commander, called navigation specialist Erikstal from her position at the bio-neural interface, we're detecting an unknown vessel approximately 2 parsecs ahead. It appears to be alone and moving on a direct intercept course with our patrol route. Talvek's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary ones remained focused on the tactical display. In all his years of service, no single ship had ever dared to approach a Valerian patrol without proper diplomatic protocols. The very idea was so unprecedented that his tactical system struggled to classify the threat level. "Show me," he commanded, his voice resonating through the ship's living neural network to reach every crew member simultaneously. The main viewer shifted to display the approaching vessel, and Talvek felt his confidence waver for the first time in decades. The ship was unlike anything in their extensive databases. Where Valerian vessels were elegant and organic, this craft appeared to have been forged from raw metal and shaped by pure function. Its hull was a dark gray that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and strange protrusions dotted its surface like the spines of some deep space predator. "Ship classification unknown," reported tactical analyst Murdix, his usually steady voice carrying a note of uncertainty. "The design philosophy appears completely alien to any known spacefaring species. Energy signatures are unusual. The power output suggests advanced propulsion systems, but the readings don't match any technology in our databases." Talvek activated the fleet-wide communication array, his thoughts transmitted instantly to all 17 ships under his command. "Maintain formation. Prepare standard intimidation protocols. This unknown vessel will learn to respect Valerian authority." The response from his fleet commanders was immediate and unified. Weapon systems charged with brilliant energy, shield, generators hummed to life, and the crystal hulls began to emit the characteristic deep space harmonics that had struck fear into countless species. The sound traveled through space itself, a psychological weapon as effective as any plasma cannon. "Unknown vessel," Talvek transmitted on all frequencies. "You are approaching sovereign Valerian territory. Identify yourself immediately and prepare for inspection. Failure to comply will result in your immediate destruction." For long moments, space remained silent except for the harmonic resonance of the Valerian fleet. Then, unexpectedly, a response crackled through their communication systems in a language their translators had never encountered before. The universal translation matrix struggled for several seconds before finally rendering the words in Valerian standard. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth ship Iron Phoenix. You're blocking a designated shipping lane. Please move your vessels to a safe distance and we'll continue on our way." The translator had difficulty with several concepts. United Earth had no galactic registry, and the notion of a designated shipping lane in unclaimed space was absurd. But what truly shocked Talvek was the casual dismissal of Valerian authority. This creature, this Marcus Chen, was speaking to them as equals rather than showing proper deference to superior force. "I am Commander Talvek of the Valerian Empire," he replied, his voice carrying the full weight of imperial authority. "This system and all surrounding space belongs to us by right of conquest. You will submit to inspection and pay appropriate tribute or face the consequences of defying the Empire." The human's response came back almost immediately, and something in the tone made Talvek's combat instincts flare to life. "Commander, I'm going to give you one chance to reconsider your position. The Iron Phoenix is on a peaceful mission, but We're fully prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. I suggest you stand down. Talvek's crew exchanged glances of disbelief. No single ship had ever spoken to a Valerian fleet in such terms. The audacity was so unprecedented that several crew members began checking their translation systems for errors. You're outnumbered 17-1, Talvek snarled, his patience finally exhausted. Your single ship against the might of the Valerian Empire. Surrender now, or we will demonstrate why our species has ruled this sector for 3 centuries. Captain, came a voice from the human ship, clearly audible over their open channel. I'm reading multiple weapon locks on our position. 17 vessels, standard crystal hull configuration. Recommendation? The human captain's response chilled Talvek to his core. 17 ships, Lieutenant Torres. Standard crystal hulls. Assess their threat level. Minimal, sir. Their energy. Weapons won't penetrate our reactive armor, and their neural networks are vulnerable to our electronic warfare systems. Estimated engagement time if they choose to be hostile. Maybe 90 seconds, sir. The casual dismissal of Valerian military might was so shocking that Talvek's tactical officer actually disconnected from the neural network in confusion. These humans were either completely insane or possessed technology that made Valerian crystal ships obsolete. You're bluffing, Talvek declared, though uncertainty now colored his thoughts. No single ship possesses the firepower to engage a Valerian fleet. Commander Talvek, Captain Chen replied, and somehow his voice carried undertones of both sadness and determination. Let me explain something about human military philosophy. We don't build ships to fight fair battles. We build them to end battles quickly and decisively. The Iron Phoenix isn't just a ship, it's a prototype designed to field test our latest defensive technologies. The human vessel began to change before their eyes. Sections of the dark hull split apart to reveal weapon systems that defied Valerian understanding of space combat. Point defense clusters emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting arrays, already locked onto every ship in the fleet. Energy conduits along the hull began to glow with power levels that registered off their sensors' maximum readings. But it was the ship's final transformation that shattered Talvek's composure entirely. The rear section of the vessel opened like a flower, revealing launch bays filled with smaller craft. But these weren't automated drones or fighters. Each one showed organic life signs, meaning they were piloted by more of these terrifying humans. Those aren't support craft, whispered navigation specialist Eirikstal in horror. They're independent warships. Each one is showing power signatures equivalent to our heavy cruisers. Commander, tactical analyst Murdix reported, his voice barely controlled. I'm detecting energy buildups in their weapon systems that exceed our maximum shield capacity by a factor of 10. If they fire, our crystal hulls won't be able to absorb or redirect that much focused energy. Talvek stared at the tactical display in growing disbelief. Everything he had been taught about space combat, about Valerian superiority, about the natural order of galactic civilization, was crumbling before his eyes. This single human ship possessed more firepower than his entire fleet, possibly more than the combined naval strength of several Valerian battle groups. Captain Chen, he transmitted, his voice carefully controlled despite his racing thoughts. Perhaps we can discuss this situation more diplomatically. The Valerian Empire is always interested in establishing peaceful relations with new spacefaring species. The human captain's response carried what Talvek's translator identified as amusement, though the concept seemed inappropriate given the circumstances. I appreciate that, Commander. However, your initial approach suggested you were more interested in tribute than trade agreements. That's not how humanity conducts interstellar relations. Our initial communication may have been overly aggressive, Talvek admitted, the words bitter but necessary. The Valerian Empire has encountered many species who required firm guidance to understand proper space protocols. We may have misjudged your people's capabilities. No offense taken, Commander. Humans understand the importance of establishing clear boundaries in first contact situations. We're prepared to demonstrate our peaceful intentions, but we're also ready to defend ourselves if necessary. As if to emphasize the point, the Iron Phoenix's weapon systems cycled through what appeared to be a targeting sequence, each system locking onto a different Valyrian ship with mechanical precision. The message was clear. The humans could engage every vessel in the fleet simultaneously. Talvek's mind raced through possibilities and strategic assessments. His fleet was outgunned, possibly by several orders of magnitude. But more disturbing was the realization that this might not even be humanity's primary military vessel. If this was a prototype, as the captain had claimed, what did their actual warships look like? "Captain," he said carefully, "the Valyrian Empire would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our respective governments to discuss territorial boundaries and trade agreements." "That's certainly possible, Commander. However, I should mention that we're expecting reinforcements within the next few hours. A human diplomatic convoy should be arriving to begin establishing formal relations with local civilizations. I'm sure they'll be very interested in meeting with Valyrian representatives." Talvek's blood turned cold. Reinforcements meant more ships like the Iron Phoenix. If humanity possessed even a small fleet of such vessels, they could challenge Valyrian dominance throughout the entire sector. The balance of power that had existed for centuries was shifting before his eyes. "How many ships in your diplomatic convoy?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just a small escort group, Commander. 12 vessels plus support craft. Standard peaceful exploration configuration. 12 ships like the Iron Phoenix." Talvek's tactical mind quickly calculated the implications. If each human vessel possessed the same overwhelming firepower advantage, 12 ships could potentially engage and defeat the entire Valyrian sector fleet. The strategic situation had just become exponentially more complex. But even as fear crept through his thoughts, another emotion began to surface: respect. These humans had approached a superior force with confidence, demonstrated overwhelming capability, and then offered diplomatic solutions rather than pressing their advantage. Such behavior suggested a civilization that was both powerful and wise, exactly the kind of ally the Valyrian Empire needed, as expansion brought them into contact with unknown threats from deeper space. As he watched the Iron Phoenix maintain its position, weapons ready but not firing, Talvek realized he was witnessing a pivotal moment in galactic history. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. The communication channel crackled with an incoming priority transmission from Valyrian High Command. Admiral Crixmore's stern visage appeared on the emergency command screen, his expression indicating urgent news. "Commander Talvek," the Admiral began, his voice carrying the weight of imperial authority. "We've been monitoring your situation. The Emperor has ordered the 3rd Battle Fleet to your position. Estimated arrival time 47 minutes. You are to maintain position and prevent the unknown vessel from escaping until reinforcements arrive." Talvek glanced at the tactical display showing the Iron Phoenix's overwhelming weapon systems, then back at his superior officer's image. The next few minutes would determine whether first contact with humanity became the foundation for a new alliance or the opening battle of an interstellar war. The Phoenix Rise's Commander Talvek closed the communication channel with Admiral Crixmore and stared at the tactical display with growing dread. The 3rd Battle Fleet represented the Empire's most powerful naval force. Over 200 vessels, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets. Under normal circumstances, such overwhelming force would guarantee victory against any opponent. But as he watched the Iron Phoenix hover motionless in space, its weapon systems still locked onto his fleet, Talvek wondered if normal circumstances applied anymore. "Commander," reported tactical analyst Murdix, "I'm detecting energy fluctuations from the human vessel. Their power core appears to be cycling through different configurations." On the main viewer, the Iron Phoenix was indeed changing. New sections of hull plating slid aside to reveal additional weapon emplacements, and the ship's entire structure seemed to be reorganizing itself. What had appeared to be a single vessel was transforming into something far more complex and threatening. "Captain," Chen's voice came through the communication system, with the same calm professionalism that had characterized all his transmissions. "Commander Talvek, my sensors indicate you've received orders to detain us until reinforcements arrive." I want to make sure you understand what you're dealing with before anyone makes a decision they'll regret. The Iron Phoenix isn't just a prototype warship, Commander. It's a fully autonomous deep space exploration and defense platform. What you're seeing now is our ship reconfiguring for extended combat operations. The transformation was breathtaking and terrifying. The Iron Phoenix had nearly doubled in size as hidden sections extended from its core structure. Massive weapon systems emerged from what had appeared to be empty space, and the ship's entire profile shifted from a sleek exploration vessel to a floating fortress bristling with armaments. "My God," whispered navigation specialist Erixtal. "It's not one ship. It's an entire battle station that was compressed into a single hull." Lieutenant Torres's voice came through the open channel with clinical precision. "Captain, reconfiguration complete. All weapon systems online and operational. Point defense networks active. Shield generators at maximum efficiency. The Iron Phoenix is ready for extended engagement." "Thank you, Lieutenant. Commander Talvek, as you can see, we're prepared for whatever your reinforcements might bring. However, I'd like to propose an alternative to unnecessary bloodshed." Talvek found his voice with difficulty. What are you proposing?" "A demonstration, Commander. Let your fleet take one shot at us. Use your most powerful weapon, your best targeting system, whatever you consider your strongest attack. If you can damage the Iron Phoenix, we'll consider withdrawing from the system. If not, perhaps we can discuss this situation more reasonably." The offer was so unprecedented that Talvek's tactical officers began checking their translation systems again. No civilized species had ever invited attack during first contact negotiations. The very concept violated every principle of space. "Diplomacy. You're offering to let us fire on you?" Talvek asked, certain he had misunderstood something fundamental. "One shot, Commander. Your choice of weapon and targeting. Consider it a practical demonstration of human defensive technology. Of course, we reserve the right to respond if you choose to continue the engagement after that." Talvek consulted quickly with his senior officers through the neural network. The consensus was clear. Either the humans were completely insane, or their confidence was based on technology so advanced that Valyrian weapons posed no threat to them. Given what they had already witnessed, the latter seemed more likely. "Very well," Talvek replied. "We accept your demonstration. Tactical. Target the human vessel with our primary crystal lance. Full power." The crystal lance was the most powerful weapon in the Valyrian arsenal, capable of cracking asteroids and reducing smaller ships to vapor. The weapon drew power from the ship's entire energy grid, channeling it through focused crystal matrices to create a beam of pure destructive force. "Firing," announced Murdix. The brilliant beam of crystalline energy lanced across space, its intensity so great that it left afterimages on the viewing screens. The lance struck the Iron Phoenix directly amidships, where the ship's main hull should have been most vulnerable. The result was not what anyone expected. The human ship didn't explode, didn't even shudder under the impact. Instead, the crystal lance's energy seemed to flow across the hull like water, absorbed and redirected by systems that defied Valyrian understanding of physics. For a moment, the Iron Phoenix glowed with absorbed energy, and then that energy discharged harmlessly into space as a brilliant light show. "Analysis," Talvek demanded, his voice barely steady. "The human vessel absorbed our entire weapon discharge," Murdix reported in disbelief. "Not deflected, not reflected. Absorbed. Their hull appears to incorporate some form of adaptive energy conversion system. The power we directed at them was processed and expelled as harmless radiation." Captain Chen's voice returned, and Talvek could swear he heard satisfaction in the human's tone. "Thank you for the demonstration, Commander. Our reactive armor performed exactly as designed. The energy from your weapon has been stored in our capacitor banks and will help power our systems for the next few hours." "Your ship absorbed our attack and converted it to power?" Talvek asked, his voice hollow. "Standard human military doctrine, Commander. Why waste incoming energy when you can use it? Now about those reinforcements of yours. My long-range sensors indicate a large fleet approaching this system. 218 vessels, including 3 Dreadnought-class ships. They'll arrive in approximately 37 minutes. The casual accuracy of the human intelligence was almost as disturbing as their technology. The Third Battle Fleet's composition was classified information. Yet this single human ship had analyzed and cataloged every vessel from impossible distances. "Captain Chen," Talvek said carefully, "the approaching fleet represents significant military force. Are you prepared to engage over 200 Valerian warships?" "Commander, let me share something about human history. We've never backed down from a fight when we believed we were in the right. But we also prefer to resolve conflicts through understanding rather than violence. Your empire has ruled this sector for 3 centuries, and I respect that achievement. However, humanity has legitimate business in this region of space, and we're prepared to defend that right." The Iron Phoenix began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, and Talvek realized the transmission was being directed toward the approaching Third Battle Fleet. The humans were attempting to establish direct communication with Admiral Crixmore. "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice carried clearly through the fleet communication system. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth ship Iron Phoenix. I understand you're approaching our position with considerable force. Before we engage in unnecessary conflict, I'd like to propose a demonstration of human capabilities that might help us avoid bloodshed." Admiral Crixmore's response crackled through space with imperial authority. "Unknown vessel, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender immediately or face the full might of the Valerian Empire." "Admiral, with respect, I don't think you fully understand what you're dealing with. Allow me to demonstrate." What happened next would be remembered in Valerian military history as the moment their understanding of space warfare became obsolete. The Iron Phoenix suddenly split apart. What had appeared to be a single ship revealed itself to be 12 separate vessels connected by retractable hull sections. Each component was a fully functional warship, complete with its own weapon systems, shields, and life support. The human prototype had been an entire fleet disguised as a single vessel, but the demonstration wasn't finished. Each of the 12 ships began its own transformation sequence, expanding and reconfiguring until a small fleet of human warships hung in space where moments before there had been only one. "Jesus Christ," Lieutenant Torres's voice came through the open channel. "The Admiral's going to love this. 12 Iron Phoenix variants operational and ready for combat. All weapon systems green across the fleet." Admiral Crixmore's flagship broke communication silence, his voice tight with barely controlled shock. "Analysis of hostile vessels?" Talvek's tactical officer provided the devastating assessment. "Admiral, each human ship is showing power outputs equivalent to our dreadnoughts. Combined firepower of the human fleet exceeds our entire battle group by an estimated factor of 4. The space around the human fleet began to shimmer, and new contacts appeared on Valerian sensors. 12 more human vessels decloaked from stealth systems, their hulls becoming visible as they dropped their concealment fields. "Captain Chen, Admiral," Crixmore transmitted, his voice carefully controlled. "You mentioned a diplomatic convoy earlier." "That's correct, Admiral. 12 exploration vessels plus support craft. We're here to establish peaceful relations with local civilizations and secure safe passage for human commerce and exploration. However, we're fully prepared to defend ourselves, if necessary." The tactical situation had shifted so dramatically that Talvek's mind struggled to process the implications. 24 human warships, each one potentially superior to Valerian dreadnoughts, facing down the Empire's most powerful fleet. The humans had achieved tactical superiority through technology so advanced it might as well have been magic. "Admiral," Captain Chen continued, "humanity has no desire for territorial conquest in this region. We're explorers and traders, not conquerors. However, we won't be intimidated or forced to pay tribute to anyone. We're prepared to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Valerian Empire, but it will be as equals, not as subjects." Admiral Crixmore was silent for long moments, undoubtedly processing the same strategic calculations that had left Talvek stunned. The Valerian Empire had built its power on technological superiority and overwhelming force. Now they faced a species that made their greatest achievements look primitive. "Captain Chen," the Admiral finally replied, "the Valerian Empire would be honored to establish diplomatic relations with humanity." Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting to discuss territorial boundaries and mutual interests. I think that would be an excellent idea, Admiral. However, I should mention that the United Earth government has authorized me to negotiate preliminary agreements on behalf of humanity. We're prepared to offer technology exchanges, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts to civilizations that approach us with respect. The offer was unprecedented. The humans were proposing to share their advanced technology with species that had just threatened them with violence. Such generosity suggested a civilization that was not only powerful, but fundamentally different from any species the Valyrians had encountered. What would humanity require in return? Admiral Crixmore asked carefully. Recognition of human territorial claims in this sector, freedom of navigation for human vessels, and formal diplomatic recognition. In exchange, we're prepared to offer defensive technology that could help the Valyrian Empire secure its borders against external threats. Talvek understood the implications immediately. The humans were offering to transform the Valyrians from potential enemies into valuable allies. The technology exchange alone would advance Valyrian civilization by centuries, while the defensive alliance would secure the Empire's borders against unknown threats from deeper space. Admiral, he transmitted on a private channel, recommend accepting the human proposal. Their technology could revolutionize our civilization, and their military capabilities make them valuable allies rather than conquerable enemies. Admiral Crixmore's response came after a long pause. Captain Chen, the Valyrian Empire accepts your proposal for formal diplomatic negotiations. We're transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting site where our respective governments can establish the framework for ongoing relations. Excellent, Admiral. The diplomatic convoy will proceed to the specified coordinates. However, I should warn you that human negotiators prefer direct, honest communication. We find that mutual respect and clear agreements work better than intimidation and tribute systems. The human fleet began to consolidate, the 12 separate vessels reconnecting into their original configuration as the Iron Phoenix. The process was as fascinating as it was terrifying, demonstrating technology that could revolutionize everything from ship design to military tactics. Commander Talvek, Captain Chen's voice returned to their private channel. Thank you for handling this situation with professionalism. First contact scenarios can be dangerous, but your willingness to listen rather than simply attack made all the difference. Captain, Talvek replied, his voice filled with newfound respect. Humanity has given the Valyrian Empire much to consider. Your people's combination of advanced technology and diplomatic wisdom is impressive. Commander, let me leave you with something to think about. The Iron Phoenix isn't our most advanced ship. It's a prototype we're testing before we build the real thing. Humanity has learned that the galaxy can be a dangerous place, and we believe in being prepared. As the human fleet moved away toward the diplomatic meeting coordinates, Talvek stared at the tactical display and considered the implications of first contact with humanity. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently, but perhaps that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The humans had demonstrated overwhelming technological superiority, but they had chosen diplomacy over conquest. They had offered alliance, rather than demanding submission. Such behavior suggested a species that could be trusted with the kind of power they possessed. Admiral Crixmore's final transmission reached all ships in the fleet simultaneously. All vessels returned to base. Priority message to Imperial Command. First contact with humanity successful. Recommend immediate diplomatic engagement and technology exchange negotiations. The galaxy has changed, and the Valyrian Empire must adapt. As the Valyrian fleet began its journey home, Talvek realized he had witnessed something unprecedented in galactic history. Humanity had announced its presence not through conquest or intimidation, but through a demonstration of strength tempered by wisdom. The Iron Phoenix incident would be remembered as the day the galaxy discovered that humanity was not just another spacefaring species, but a civilization that could reshape the balance of power through technology, diplomacy, and the simple but revolutionary concept that strength should be used to protect rather than to conquer. In the depths of space, the human fleet continued toward its diplomatic mission, carrying with it the promise of a new era in galactic civilization where power would serve wisdom, and strength would defend freedom rather than enforce servitude.